I haven't slept in 3 days. I mean, I've closed my eyes. I've tried. I've counted every damn sheep. But when I do drift off, my mind drags me back to that night. It was Thursday. I remember because I hate Thursdays. They're like a cruel joke. So close to Friday, but not quite. I was on the couch, half watching some random Netflix show I'd forgotten the name of 5 minutes in. My wife, Emily, was working late. Again, big client, she had said, kissing me on the cheek before she left. Her lips were warm, but they felt off. Like muscle memory, not affection. I noticed it then, but I brushed it off. I've always been the type to ignore the nagging voice in my head. I guess that's how I ended up here. The thing is, Emma been distant lately. Not the obvious kind, where she's slamming doors or avoiding eye contact. No, she was subtle. Subtle in a way that made me question if I was going crazy. She still smiled. She still kissed me goodbye. But her laughter didn't reach her eyes anymore. Our conversations felt like running on autopilot, and her touch felt polite. I told myself it was just stress. Her job at the firm had been demanding lately. Long hours. New projects. But then there was that night. It was around 11:30 p.m. when I heard her key in the lock. I muted the TV and sat up, pretending I hadn't just been zoning out. She walked in, her heels clicking on the hardwood. Her face was flushed, her hair slightly tousled. She smelled different. Not her usual vanilla sandalwood perfume. No, this was something muskier, sweeter. "Hey, babe," she said, her voice a little too bright. She dropped her bag on the counter and ran her fingers through her hair. "Sorry I'm late. Client dinner ran long." "Yeah." I tried to sound casual, but my throat felt tight. "How was it?" "Ugh." She rolled her eyes, laughing softly. "Same old. A lot of talking, a lot of ass-kissing." She kicked off her shoes, her bare feet padding softly toward the bedroom. "I'm exhausted." I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to. But as she disappeared into the bathroom, I noticed something that didn't sit right. Her phone. She always took her phone with her. Always. Even when she showered, it was like an extension of her hand. But that night, she left it face down on the counter. I stared at it for a long minute. My heart was pounding, my palms clammy. "Don't," I whispered to myself. "Don't be that guy." But I was already walking toward it. My body moved before my brain caught up. I stood there, staring down at the black screen. I knew her passcode. My thumb hovered over the screen. One swipe. That's all it would take. One swipe, and I'd either prove myself a paranoid asshole or something worse. I hesitated. I heard the water running in the bathroom. I had maybe 5 minutes. My chest was tight, and I could hear my own heartbeat in my ears. "Just look. Just a quick look. Then you'll know." I unlocked it. Her messages popped up first. My stomach dropped. "I can't stop thinking about tonight. I miss you already." The message was from someone named Daniel. My hand started shaking. I scrolled up. "Wish I could have stayed longer. You make it so hard to leave." My vision blurred. "God, you feel so good." The air left my lungs. My fingers were ice cold. I should have stopped. I should have thrown the phone across the room and walked away. But I didn't. I kept scrolling, my eyes moving too fast, my brain tried to keep up. Pictures. Brûlé, dimly les photos. A hotel room. Sheets that weren't ours. And then her. In his arms. The water in the bathroom stopped. I froze. My mind screamed at me to put the phone back, to pretend I hadn't just had my entire world ripped out from under me. But I couldn't move. The bathroom door creaked open. "Babe." Her voice was soft, tired. But I didn't respond. I couldn't. "Ethan." She walked out, her damp hair tucked behind her ears, her robe tied loosely around her waist. She froze when she saw me. Her eyes darted to the phone in my hand. For a split second, her face went blank. But then, "Ethan." Her voice was barely above a whisper. I looked up at her, and for the first time in our 10 years together, I didn't recognize the woman standing in front of me. "You left your phone," I said, my voice hollow. Silence. I held up the screen, her messages with him still open. Her eyes widened, her lips parting slightly. But she didn't say a word. "Tell me," I whispered, my voice cracking. "Tell me I'm wrong." Her face crumpled, and in that moment I knew I wasn't wrong. I wish I had been, but I wasn't. And that was the moment I stopped sleeping. I don't know how long I stood there, holding her phone, my hands trembling so badly I thought I'd drop it. Seconds? Minutes? Time didn't make sense anymore. Emily's eyes were locked on mine, wide and filled with something that looked a lot like fear. But not the fear of losing me. No, it was the fear of being caught. "Ethan," she whispered, her voice barely above the silence that hung between us. I couldn't speak. My throat was tight. My chest felt like it was being crushed. My mind was racing, but all I could do was stare at her. I wanted her to deny it. I needed her to, but she didn't. She just stood there, frozen. "Say something." Her voice cracked. "Who is he?" My voice sounded foreign, detached. Her lips parted, but no words came out. She blinked, and a single tear slid down her cheek. I should have felt something seeing that. Anger, pain, anything, but I was numb. "Ethan, who is he?" Silence. And that silence told me everything I needed to know. I looked back at the phone. Daniel, a name that meant nothing to me, but somehow had the power to destroy everything I thought I knew. "How long? Ethan, how long?" I snapped, my voice louder this time. The sound echoed off the walls, making her flinch. Her gaze dropped to the floor. Her lips trembled, and then, barely above a whisper, 6 months. I swear I felt the earth tilt beneath my feet. 6 months. Half a year. While I'd been coming home every night, kissing her like a fool, telling her I loved her, my legs felt weak. I stumbled back, leaning against the counter to keep myself upright. "Ethan, please. Where did you meet him?" My voice was quieter now. "Dangerous." She swallowed, her eyes darting anywhere but at me. "Through work. Of course. Is he married?" Her silence answered that question, too. "Jesus Christ." I ran a hand through my hair, pacing the kitchen like a caged animal. My heart was pounding so loud I could hear in my ears. "Ethan, I'm so sorry." I let out a bitter laugh, one that tasted like acid. "You're sorry. I didn't mean for it to happen." Her voice cracked, and she took a step closer to me. It just happened." I looked at her then, really looked at her, and for the first time, I saw the cracks, the lies, the distance that had been growing between us for months. "Don't," I said, my voice cold and unfamiliar. "Don't insult me by saying it just happened." She flinched like I'd struck her. "I was lonely, Ethan." Her voice was trembling now. "You've been so distant lately. I felt like I was losing you." My jaw clenched so hard I thought it might shatter. "So, your solution was to fuck someone else?" Tears spilled down her cheeks, but I didn't care. "Not this time. I didn't plan it," she whispered. "Planned or not, you did it." Her shoulders shook as she cried, but all I could feel was this hollow emptiness inside me. "Do you love him?" She froze, and that's when I knew. She didn't have to say it. Her silence screamed louder than any confession ever could. "Jesus." My voice cracked, and I had to look away. "I don't know." Her words came out barely above a whisper, but they hit me like a punch to the gut. "You don't know?" I repeated, my voice dripping with disbelief. "I love you, Ethan." "Do you?" I met her gaze, and for the first time, I wasn't sure if I believed her. "Because you sure as hell didn't act like it." "I made a mistake," she whispered. "A mistake is forgetting an anniversary." I spat. This was a fucking choice." Her face crumpled, and she covered her mouth with her hand as another sob escaped her lips. But I didn't move to comfort her. "Not this time." I couldn't. "Why didn't you just tell me?" My voice was quieter now. Broken. "I was scared," she whispered. "I didn't want to lose you." I let out a bitter laugh. "Well, congratulations, Em. You just did." The words hung in the air, heavy and final. But then, "Ethan," her voice was barely a whisper, but there was something in it that made me look at her. And that's when I saw it. Guilt. But not the kind I was expecting. It was deeper, darker. "What else aren't you telling me?" I asked, my stomach twisting. Her eyes filled with fresh tears, and for a moment, I thought she was going to deny it. But then she spoke. And what she said next, it shattered me in ways I didn't think were possible. I think I'm pregnant." The air left the room. My heart stopped. Pregnant. And in that moment, I knew. I wasn't sure if the baby was mine. "Say that again." My voice didn't even sound like mine. It was hollow, distant, like I was hearing someone else speak. Emily's lips quivered. Her eyes, wide and drowning in tears, locked onto mine. But she didn't repeat it. Say it again. Her throat bobbed as she swallowed hard. I, I think I'm pregnant. The words echoed in my ears, bouncing off the walls of our kitchen, hitting me over and over again like a sledgehammer to the chest. Pregnant. Pregnant. And I had no fucking idea if the baby was mine. A sharp, cold feeling settled in my stomach, making me feel sick. I gripped the edge of the counter to steady myself, but it didn't help. The room was spinning. Is it mine? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. I hated the way it cracked. Ethan, her lower lip trembled. She stepped toward me, but I backed away. Is it mine, Emily? I asked again, louder this time. I don't know. There it was. The truth. And it felt like someone had just driven a knife straight through my chest. You don't know? I repeated, more to myself than her. My head was spinning, my mind running a mile a minute, trying to piece together the timeline, trying to figure out how the hell we'd ended up here. I haven't missed a period yet, she stammered, her voice shaky. But I'm late. I took a test yesterday. Yesterday. She nodded, her eyes glossy. Yesterday. While I was sitting at work, blissfully unaware that my life was about to implode, she was pissing on a stick and praying the results wouldn't confirm what I already knew deep down. And you didn't think to tell me? I asked, my voice sharp enough to cut through the thick silence between us. I didn't know how. She was crying now, her hands shaking as she wiped at her face. Ethan, I was scared. Scared of what? Me? No. She shook her head furiously. I was scared of losing everything. I didn't know how to tell you, but you knew how to fuck him, right? The words were out before I could stop them, and the second they hit the air, I saw the way they shattered her. She winced like I'd slapped her, but I didn't care. Ethan, her voice was barely a whisper now. How long am? My voice was calmer than I felt. Too calm. It scared me. How long have you known? Her eyes dropped to the floor. How long? I asked again, my tone sharper this time. A week, she mumbled. My blood turned to ice. A week. I repeated, my jaw clenched so tight I thought it might snap. So you've been sitting on this for a fucking week? She nodded, her eyes filled with shame. I couldn't breathe. I felt like the walls were closing in on me. Jesus Christ, Emily. I dragged a hand down my face, trying to steady myself, but it wasn't working. And you didn't think I deserved to know? I was going to tell you, she whispered. I needed time. Time. I laughed, but it was hollow. You needed time? To figure out what? If you could lie to me a little longer? No. She shook her head, her eyes pleading. Ethan, please. I didn't know how to face you. Well, congratulations, I said bitterly. You're facing me now. She flinched. Silence filled the space between us, so thick I could barely breathe. I felt like I was drowning in it. Have you talked to him? I asked, my voice quieter now. Her head shot up, her eyes wide with panic. What? Daniel. I could barely say his name without tasting bile. Does he know? Her lips trembled, and that was all the answer I needed. Jesus. I took a step back, running a hand through my hair, trying to think. But I couldn't. My mind was a mess of noise, anger, and heartbreak. I didn't tell him, she said quickly. I don't even know if it's his Ethan. I swear. But you think it might be. She didn't answer. That silence? It was louder than any confession. Have you been seeing him since? My voice cracked on the last word. I hated how weak I sounded. No. She shook her head furiously. I ended it. I swear. A month ago. A month ago. So, for 5 months, you were... I couldn't even finish the sentence. The words felt like acid in my mouth. She nodded, her eyes filled with regret. But regret wasn't enough to fix this. Nothing was. Ethan, please, she whispered, stepping closer. I love you. I never stopped loving you. Don't. I stepped back, holding up a hand. Just don't. Her face crumpled, and fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. But I couldn't look at her. I'll take a test, she whispered, her voice trembling. A paternity test. As soon as I can. A paternity test. Jesus. This was my life now. Ethan, her voice cracked. Please, just don't leave. Ich blinkte her. And for a moment, I saw the woman I fell in love with. The woman I married. The woman who promised me forever. But that woman was gone, and I wasn't sure if I could ever get her back. I need time, I whispered, my voice barely audible. Her face crumpled, but she nodded. Okay, I'm staying at Jake's. Her eyes filled with fresh panic. Ethan, please. I can't be here right now, Em. Please don't do this. Her voice was desperate now, but I couldn't stay. Don't ask me to stay, I whispered, my throat tightening. I grabbed my keys from the counter and turned toward the door. Ethan, I paused, my hand on the doorknob. Do you still love me? Her voice was so quiet, so broken, that it nearly shattered me. But I didn't answer. I couldn't. Instead, I opened the door and walked out. And the moment I stepped outside, the silence followed me. But this silence? It wasn't just unbearable. It was deafening. Jake's guest room smelled like stale beer and laundry detergent. It was small, cluttered with old band posters and boxes he never unpacked after his last breakup. But right now, it was the only place I could breathe. Man, you sure you're okay? Jake's voice was cautious as he leaned against the doorway. His face was etched with concern, and I hated that I'd dragged him into this mess. Yeah, I lied, sitting on the edge of the creaky twin bed, staring at the wall. I just needed some space. Space, he echoed, running a hand through his messy hair. Bro, you've been here for 4 days. That's not space. He hesitated, choosing his words carefully. That's avoidance. I didn't respond. What the hell was I supposed to say? My wife cheated on me for half a year. She's pregnant and doesn't know if the baby is mine. And I'm too fucking scared to find out. I can crash on the couch, Jake offered for the 10th time. You don't have to stay in here. I'm fine, I murmured, my voice hollow. Bullshit. I looked up, and Jake's expression was dead serious. Ethan, he said quietly, stepping into the room. You're not fine, and I get it. I do. But you can't just sit here and pretend this isn't happening. Jake, I'm not ready, I whisper, my throat tight. I'm not ready to go back. I'm not ready to, my voice cracked, and I looked away. Ready to find out if the kid's yours? My jaw clenched so hard I thought it might break. I didn't answer. That's what's killing you, isn't it? Jake's voice softened. It's not just the cheating. It's that. I swallowed hard, my throat like sandpaper. Because he was right. I could handle the betrayal, the lies, the months of deception. But the baby? That was different. That was a whole other level of pain. What if? I stopped, my voice barely above a whisper. Jake sat down beside me, his expression softer now. What if what? What if it's not mine? The words felt like glass in my throat. Jake didn't answer right away. He just sat there, letting the silence stretch between us. Then what? I asked, my voice barely holding steady. What the fuck do I do then, Jake? I don't know, man, he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. But I know one thing. I glanced at him, my chest tight. You can't keep running. I let out a shaky breath, my head falling into my hands. I don't know if I can face her. Then don't. My head snapped up. What? Don't face her, Jake said, his expression serious. Face the truth. Find out if the kid's yours. Then figure out the rest. His words hit me like a punch to the gut. Face the truth. That was the thing, though. I wasn't sure if I was ready for that truth. Because if that baby wasn't mine, I wasn't sure if I'd survive it. The next day, I stood outside my house for a full 5 minutes before I went inside. My hands were shaking. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst. But I had to do this. Jake was right. I couldn't keep running. When I finally opened the door, the house felt different. Quiet. Too quiet. Ethan. Her voice came from the living room. Soft. Hesitant. I walked in, and there she was, sitting on a couch, her legs tucked under her, her eyes red and puffy like she hadn't slept. Hey, she whispered, her voice barely audible. I didn't respond. I couldn't. Instead, I just stood there, taking her in. Her hair was pulled back in a messy bun, her face pale. She looked smaller somehow, like she was carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders. Where's your phone? I asked, my voice cold and steady. Her brows furrowed. What? Your phone? I repeated, my jaw tight. Where is it? She blinked, confused, but then her eyes widened with realization. Ethan, just give it to me, Em. Her hands trembled as she reached for it on the coffee table. She didn't say a word as she handed it to me. I opened it, checked her messages. There was nothing. No messages from Daniel. No calls. Nothing. But I wasn't satisfied. Unlock your email. Ethan, do it. Her fingers shook as she tapped in her password. I scrolled through her emails, scanning for anything that would tell me if she was still in contact with him. Nothing. Ethan, I told you. It's over, she whispered, her voice barely above a whisper. I haven't talked to him. Not even to tell him about the baby. Her eyes filled with tears. No. I stared at her, my chest tight. Why not? I asked softly. Because, her voice cracked. Because I don't want it to be his. My breath caught in my throat. I don't want this to be his, she whispered, tears spilling down her cheeks. I want it to be yours. Her words were a gut punch, but they didn't change the reality. We need to know for sure, I said quietly. Her face crumpled, but she nodded. I'll make the appointment. Her voice was barely above a whisper. I nodded, but my heart was pounding so loud I could barely think. Because now, I was staring down the barrel of the truth, and I wasn't sure if I was ready for it. 2 weeks later, we stood in the sterile, too-bright office of the paternity clinic. Emily sat beside me, her hands folded tightly in her lap, her knuckles white. I was sitting perfectly still, but inside I was anything but calm. The doctor came in, a man in his mid-50s with tired eyes and a clipboard. Mr. and Mrs. Parker. He greeted, his voice professional but not unkind. Do you have results? Emily's voice was barely above a whisper. He nodded. My heart was pounding so loud, I thought it might drown out whatever he was about to say. After reviewing the DNA samples, his eyes met mine, and in that split second I knew. My world tilted. The results show that you are not the biological father. I felt the air leave the room. Emily let out a broken sob beside me, but I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. I just sat there, staring at nothing, because in that moment, everything I had feared became my reality. The words echoed in my head. You are not the biological father. I heard them. I felt them, but I didn't understand them. Not at first, because some part of me, some stupid, hopeful part, thought maybe, just maybe, there'd been a mistake. That the doctor had read the wrong file. That this was all just a sick, twisted joke. But it wasn't. Ethan. Emily's voice was a broken whisper, barely audible over the roaring in my ears. I couldn't look at her. My eyes were locked on the doctor, who was saying something about next steps, legal options, words I couldn't even register because all I could hear was that one sentence playing on repeat in my mind. You're not the biological father. Ethan, please. Her hand brushed against mine, and I flinched. It was instinct, like touching a flame and pulling back before you get burned. But I was already burned. I was fucking scorched. Mr. Parker? The doctor's voice finally broke through the noise in my head. I blinked, my vision blurry. I hadn't even realized how tightly I was gripping the arms of the chair until I saw my knuckles, white, bloodless. Do you need a moment? He asked gently. I didn't answer. I just stood up. Ethan. Emily's voice cracked, and I felt her hand brush my arm. Ethan, wait. But I couldn't. I couldn't stay in that room for another second. I walked out. I don't remember driving. I don't remember getting back to Jake's. But somehow I was there. The door slammed behind me as I stumbled into the living room, my chest heaving like I'd just run a marathon. Ethan. Jake's voice came from the kitchen. That you, man? I didn't answer. I couldn't. He appeared in the doorway a second later, wiping his hands on a dish towel. One look at my face, and the color drained from his. Shit, I don't know what gave it away. Maybe it was the way I was standing. Maybe it was the look in my eyes. Or maybe it was the fact that I looked like a man who had just had his soul ripped out. Ethan. Jake's voice was softer now, cautious. What happened? I opened my mouth, but no sound came out. Is it? He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. I saw it in his eyes. He already knew. I swallowed hard, trying to breathe past the knot in my throat. But it was no use. I nodded. Fuck. Jake ran a hand down his face, his expression a mixture of anger and heartbreak. Jesus, man, I'm so sorry. I didn't answer. I couldn't, because if I opened my mouth, I wasn't sure if I'd be able to stop the scream that was clawing its way up my throat. I don't know how long I sat there. Hours, maybe. Jake tried to talk to me, tried to get me to eat, drink, something, but I was a statue. Eventually, he gave up, left me alone, and that's when the floodgates opened. The tears came first, silent at first, then uncontrollable. My whole body shook as I sat there, my head in my hands, the weight of everything crashing down on me all at once. I thought I was prepared for this. I wasn't, because nothing could have prepared me for the gut-wrenching reality that the child I'd spent weeks imagining. This life I'd been trying to piece back together wasn't mine. It was his, Daniel's, a stranger, a man who had taken everything from me. I was supposed to, what? Raise his kid? Pretend everything was fine? No, I couldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. But then, the question hit me like a sledgehammer. What now? What the fuck was I supposed to do now? I didn't talk to Emily for 3 days. She called. She texted. She even came by Jake's once, but I didn't let her in. I needed space. I needed time to think. But thinking only made it worse. I kept going back to that moment in the clinic. Her face when the doctor said those words. The pain in her eyes. The guilt. And despite everything, despite how much I wanted to hate her, I couldn't, because part of me still loved her. And that was the cruelest fucking part. I was standing at a crossroads, and every path I looked down led to something broken. Stay, raise a child that wasn't mine, live with that constant reminder, leave, walk away from 10 years of marriage, from the woman I'd built my life with. There was no right answer, only pain, and I was drowning in it. On the 4th day, I finally went home. I don't know what made me do it. Maybe I just wanted to stop running. The house was dark when I walked in. Emily, my voice echoed through the silence. No answer. I took a step further inside, and that's when I saw her, sitting at the kitchen table. Her head was down, her hands clutching a crumpled tissue. Ethan, her voice was barely a whisper, and when she looked up, her eyes were swollen and red. She looked broken, but I was too tired to feel anything. We need to talk, I said, my voice low and steady. She nodded, wiping at her face, but didn't say anything. I sat down across from her, the silence between us thick and suffocating. I don't know where to start, she whispered, her voice trembling. Then don't. I leaned back, my jaw tight. Just tell me one thing. Her eyes met mine, wide and fearful. Why? The word hung in the air, heavy and unforgiving. Why, Em? Her face crumpled. I don't know, she whispered, her voice barely holding together. I was lonely. I was scared. I felt like I was losing you. Losing me? I let out a bitter laugh. So your solution was to fuck someone else? Her sob echoed through the kitchen, and for a split second, I hated myself for being so cruel. But I couldn't stop. Why didn't you just talk to me, Emily? My voice cracked. Why didn't you tell me how you felt? I tried. She whispered, her head falling into her hands. But you were distant too. We were falling apart, Ethan. And I was so scared of losing you that her voice broke. I made the biggest mistake of my life. Silence filled the space between us. I'm sorry, she whispered, her voice barely audible. Sorry doesn't fix this, I said quietly. I know. Her eyes met mine, and for a moment, I saw the woman I had loved for so long. But love wasn't enough. Not anymore. Ethan, her voice was trembling now. What happens now? I stared at her, my chest tight, my mind racing. What happens now? I didn't have the answer. Not yet. But I knew one thing for sure, whatever happened next. There was no coming back from this. Days passed. Days where I felt like I was moving through a fog. Like I was watching my life play out from a distance, but I wasn't really there. Emily tried. She tried so damn hard. I'd come home to find dinner on the table. Candles lit like we were some perfect couple pretending nothing had happened. She'd ask about my day, her voice soft, careful, like I was a ticking bomb she was afraid to set off. But we both knew the truth. The air between us was heavy with words we couldn't say. Every glance, every forced smile was a reminder of what we'd lost. And no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't fix this. We couldn't fix this. It was a Saturday afternoon when I finally said it out loud. I was sitting at the kitchen table, staring at the cup of coffee I hadn't touched. The house was too quiet. Emily stood by the sink, washing dishes like it was any other day, like we weren't standing on the edge of something irreversible. Eminesia. My voice was quiet, but she heard it. Her hand stilled, her back going rigid. Yeah. Her voice was barely above a whisper. We need to talk. She turned slowly, her eyes already filling with tears. She knew. God, she knew. Okay, she whispered, her hands trembling as she dried them on a dish towel. I couldn't look at her. If I looked at her, I'd break. I can't. I can't do this. I murmured, my voice barely holding steady. Ethan. Her voice cracked, and I felt her take a step toward me. Please. I held up a hand, stopping her. Just let me say this. Her lip quivered, but she nodded, her eyes locked on mine. I love you, Em. My voice was soft, but the weight of those words filled the room. I don't think I ever stopped loving you. Her face crumpled, and I had to look away. But love, I swallowed hard, my throat tight. Love isn't enough anymore. A soft sob escaped her lips. Ethan, please, I've tried. I whispered, my eyes staring down at the table. I've tried so damn hard to move past it, to be okay. But I'm not. Her breath hitched. Every time I look at you, I see him. My voice cracked, and I hated how broken I sounded. Every time I think about the baby, I stopped, unable to finish. Because that was the part that tore me apart the most. The baby, a life that wasn't mine. I don't know how to be a father to a child that isn't mine. I whispered, my voice barely above a whisper now. I don't know how to look at that baby and not see. My throat tightened, and I couldn't say his name. Daniel, the man who had taken everything from me. I'm sorry, I whispered, my voice cracking. I'm so fucking sorry, Em. Her sobs filled the room, and it felt like my chest was being crushed under the weight of it. But I can't stay. Silence. For a moment, all I could hear was her breathing, ragged, uneven. And then, no, her voice was soft, barely audible, but there was something in it that made me look up. Her eyes were red, her face streaked with tears, but there was something else. Acceptance. No, she whispered again, her lips trembling. Don't apologize. Emily, I did this, she murmured, her voice barely holding together. I broke us. Her gaze dropped to the floor, and for a moment, I thought she might collapse under the weight of it all. I hurt you in a way I can never take back, she whispered, her voice shaking. And I have to live with that. I didn't know what to say. There was nothing to say. I love you, she whispered, her eyes locking onto mine. I'll probably always love you. My throat was tight, and I couldn't breathe. But you're right, she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. Love isn't enough. The silence that followed was deafening. Do you want me to leave? I asked quietly. She shook her head. No, she whispered, her voice breaking. I'll go. Em, I can't. Her voice cracked, and she wiped at her face, trying to steady herself. I can't stay here, Ethan. Not when her eyes flickered to the space around us, the home we had built together. A home that wasn't a home anymore. I'll stay with my sister, she whispered, her voice barely holding together. My chest ached as I watched her break. But I didn't stop her, because stopping her would have been selfish. And I've been selfish enough already. The next morning, she was gone. Her side of the closet was empty. Her toothbrush was missing from the bathroom. It was like she had never been there at all, but her scent still lingered. Vanilla and sandalwood. And for the first time, I hated it. Weeks passed. I went through the motions, but I wasn't really living. I was just existing. Jake tried to get me out of the house, tried to distract me with beers and meaningless conversation, but nothing helped. Because no matter where I went, I carried the weight of it with me. The weight of us. I thought I'd feel relief after she left. I didn't. I just felt empty. One night, I got a text from Emily. I had the baby. A girl. That was it. No photos. No details. Just that. I stared at the screen for a long time, my heart pounding in my ears. I should have felt something. Happiness. Sadness. Anything. But I felt nothing. Just a hollow ache in my chest that I knew would never go away. Months passed. The divorce was quick. Quiet. No misibates. No shouting matches. Just a signature on a piece of paper that ended a decade of my life. And when it was over, I stood outside the courthouse, staring at the sky, wondering how the hell I'd ended up here. Alone. People say time heals all wounds. That's a lie. Time doesn't heal shit. It just teaches you how to live with the scars. And some scars, they never fade. I don't know where Emily is now. I don't know if she's happy. I hope she is. I hope that little girl grows up loved, cherished, even if I'll never be part of her life. And me? I'm still here, still breathing, still learning how to live with the weight of what I lost. But one thing's for sure, the man I was before, he's gone. And the man I am now, he'll never make the same mistake again.